Perfect.
So hello everyone, and welcome to this week's installment of ClueCon Weekly. This week with us we have Samir Doshi from iNextrix Technologies, who is the maintainer of a very interesting open source project named ASTPP. Thank you, Samir, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Luca, and pleasure to be here.
Would you like to give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am Samir Doshi, co-founder and director at iNextrix Technologies Pvt Limited, and I am also a community leader of ASTPP, Open Source VoIP Billing Platform, which is built on FreeSwitch. And we started with ASTPP in 2013, and since then we are maintaining and actively involved into operations of an ASTPP community. I am actually specifically having more than 11 years of experience in telecom VoIP. And apart from ASTP, in iNextrix, we have a different products and services based on telecom VoIP and such as call center, iQualify intelligent call center software that is having a omni-channel concept as well. We have a utility tool which is based on ASTRIX and FreeSwitch for the live call monitoring. And we also have a mobile SIP clients, including chat similar to WhatsApp and Telegram, which we have done the integration with ASTP. So these are the core products and the solutions which we have. And we also work on different custom projects.
That's very nice. So going back to ASTPP, because it's really interesting, it's a project that has a long story, right? So could you give us about? I think, and I know there was a change at some point, right? It started with a different platform.
Exactly. So yeah, actually the ASTPP was started in 2003 by Mr. Darren, and that was basically on ASTRIX. So ASTRIX and Pearl at that time he was using, and the name of the ASTP was ASTRIX to postpaid billing. So that was the name, and it was created for the open source community, and then it was running well. And by the time I believe 2006 or 7, he also introduced FreeSwitch concept as well. So one product was having support of ASTRIX and FreeSwitch. So there was a flexibility between them. And then because the FreeSwitch was becoming very popular, so more attention was towards FreeSwitch. But unfortunately, 2009, I mean, he left the project and project got dead. And there was no active development, no community members, nothing was there. And in 2013, so we were, just exploring, and then we came to know about the ASTP, and then from when we started our career, actually specifically in telecom. So we would like to work on the open source, and we wanted to do something for the open source. So that's why we adopted the ASTP and got all the rights, and then we revamped ASTP, understood, then we revamped ASTP and released continuously new versions and make the community alive again. And since 2013 till now, we are doing all these activities, and majorly we are working on FreeSwitch.
Wow, that's a nice open source story. Like hearing about a project that gets revived is always interesting, and it looks like you did a great work. So let me ask a little bit about that. How many people did the community have when you restarted the project? Was it just you and a few others? Was it an effort of more people? How did you get it started back up? Because that, a lot of open source projects, especially these days, which is something that I've been noticing, just go, a little bit to the wayside, stop getting updated, etc. And it's interesting how you just started it up. So how many people did you have? How did that go?
Well, when we started, there was no one. I mean, we just got the code and we were doing R&D, and then we contacted Darren as well. Like, we want to understand what exactly this project is and where exactly the things are going on. So he explained a little bit about that. And then we literally spent 6 to 8 months to understand exactly how the executions are going on. And then, the code was broken and all those things, so fixing the things. And then we at least made incoming call, outgoing call, and then we started understanding the product. And at that time, no one was there. And then we released the fixed version. I mean, that was the version 1.7.1, I believe. and people started getting the interest. I mean, the old people who were using with ASTRIX, they started looking at it again, and then we started getting the traction on. They were trying and they were reporting the problems, and they were helping us to find out and to prepare the roadmap of it. They were sharing the codes and all those things that was started. So 2014, we actually, I can say, we actively participated into the open source. I mean, we started getting the contribution from the people from community.
Oh yeah, that's again, the stories about the open source survival of projects is always great. So what is so aside from FreeSwitch, which I'd like to ask you a few questions about, like how you like it, etc. What is the platform written into? Just the language and whatnot. That's always interesting.
You specifically asking for the ASTPP?
Yeah, what would it say ASTPP written in? Is it PHP? Is it something
Actually,
else?
yeah, when we started, it was completely in Perl. So
Oh wow.
UI, the call script, everything is on Perl. And it was using Mode XML curl module for everything. I mean, to reading the configuration, dial plans, CDR posting, everything was on that. And then we roll out with that. I mean, we made that version active for a couple of productions, and then we started facing the problems related to performance and all those things. So then we revamped it into PHP and then kept the Perl for the backend part. And then slowly and gradually we moved from Perl to Lua files. I mean, the dial plan we moved from Perl to Lua, and CDR from Perl to PHP. And now the complete UI is written in PHP.
Yeah, I think Perl. Well, that's interesting. Like you didn't hear the word Perl every day. It's still alive and kicking. Like I know people use
Exactly.
Perl for a lot of things, and
Correct.
it's never really gone away. So, but then
Correct.
again, I'm someone who uses tested and tried solutions too. So I think I think Perl. I mean, it's pretty fine. It's just not as common as it used to be, right?
Exactly.
That something that's interesting to us, of course, is since we're in the topic. You said you switched from Asterisk to FreeSwitch. First of all, I'm happy you did. So I love Asterisk, and we're good friends with the Asterisk people. But I have a curiosity about it. So why did you switch platforms? What led you? What did you find in FreeSwitch that made it sound like it's the right solution for what you were doing?
Actually, when we started, as I mentioned previously, when we started, the more part was done on the FreeSwitch side. I mean, Asterix was there, Asterix configuration was there, but it was giving the problem. But whereas FreeSwitch was having, FreeSwitch Perl files were working quite well. So that's the first reason we continued with that. Second is when we started, we actually, I was majorly working on Asterix projects, and at that time, I heard about the FreeSwitch, and people are more curious about the FreeSwitch. When we talk with any customers, they ask like whether your solution or whether you are going to do the implementation that will be on FreeSwitch or Asterix. I mean, FreeSwitch or Asterix. Yeah. So if we say FreeSwitch, then they are showing more interest towards that. So that was the thing. And then we checked the performance and all those things. So we thought like let's give it a try on the FreeSwitch, because we already knew about the Asterix, but so at that time FreeSwitch was new. But because of this, the popularity, the feedback which we were getting from the customers, that was good. So that lead us to continue with the FreeSwitch. So yeah, and we are happy with FreeSwitch.
Cool. So, what do you like about FreeSwitch, and is there something you don't like that we can help with?
Not really. I mean, there is always a solution of it. I mean, if you find any problem, there is always a solution. The community is good. I mean, they are providing support. You have a good modular way for the implementation. There are a lot of flexibilities which we have found. Somewhat that was not we found in Asterix. So at that time, I mean, when we were using 1.2 version and 1.4 version of Asterix, now it is of course much more mature. But in FreeSwitch, we find it much comfortable for any feature implementation or any expansion of feature. So that's where we like much more on the FreeSwitch side.
Nice. Well, and if there's anything we can help with, let us know.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, I think I think we at first, I have to say that at first when SignalWire got started, some people got worried that FreeSwitch, will stop being supported and would go the closed source route or whatever. But in fact, I think we've shown that having a sponsor to this kind of project, much like in iNextrix is for ASTPP, actually benefits projects, because otherwise there's a lot of volunteers. People do great work. We love everybody who helps with an open source project. But in the end, when things go past a certain complexity, you need money, I will say, to back a project. So SignalWire now has 2 full-time people that only work on FreeSwitch, plus all the team, and everything we do internally gets reflected on the open source version. And we've had more releases with more features. So I think that's been dispelled, and I think the same thing can be said for ASTPP, right? So having a company.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, you go ahead and then I will explain.
No, you explain.
Okay. All right. So exactly the same thing. I mean, I know the story of SignalWire. I mean, FreeSwitch was completely open source, and then the SignalWire, you guys founded the SignalWire just to give the backup in terms of money to the open source products. So exactly same story happened with ASTP as well. And I think most of most of open source are facing the same thing, because I have seen the time when we were getting a lot of contributions in terms of documentation, in terms of money, in terms of code, in terms of feedback before 3 years, 4 years back. But then at this point of time, I mean, after that, we are not getting any much more contribution, and there is no contribution, in fact, for the documentation. So that is leading to the question mark, like whether the thing which we are doing, are we capable enough to survive for our company, for our family? So that's where we need money to roll out the open source thing. I mean, open source project to support the open source project, and that's where we also came up with ASTPP Enterprise Edition. So and at that time also people were thinking like, you guys are going to stop open source edition. So we said, no, we are not going to stop open source. The ultimate reason behind bringing the enterprise edition is to if we have the funding, we will be able to support the open source. And after that, I mean, before 2 years we released that, and then since that time we also have resources, and we are actively working on the open source. And in fact, we have done much better work in open source. I mean, the bug fixing and releasing the new improvements, new features, because we were getting enough funding from the enterprise editions. So we are not going to stop open source edition, because we are passionate about that, and we will continue with it.
That's super nice. Yeah, I think the goal to I think setting a goal, like keeping a community alive, is hard enough without having a community backing it. In the end, and a company backing it. I think in the end, all projects that are above a certain size will eventually go that route. The problem is when people pull things like Elasticsearch, where it just decided, hey, it's not open source anymore. But I hope that's and that's shown that doesn't work, because Amazon forked Elasticsearch the day they announced it. They will make it closed source. Amazon just forked it, and now there's a fork that works perfectly, and it's still open source. So you can only do that. I think value should be extracted by consulting, not by selling the platform. Then, of course, you always have the problem of people not giving back. I don't know if you had the same experience, but there's some large companies that use open source projects and never help out. But I think that's right. I mean, if you put it out for free, so you don't have any.
Yeah, you cannot show your frustration, or or raise the question towards them, because it's open source. They can use it. Yeah. But actually, because they need to understand. I mean, the definition of open source community, it means by the people, for the people. But here we can see like by the founder, for the people.
So you're perfectly right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's so we've spoken a lot about ASTPP, but we haven't really given people a list of what it does. Would you like to give us a quick rundown of all the things you can do with the platform, and where it sits in the stack for a company that uses telephony?
Sure, definitely. So ASTPP is built on FreeSwitch, and ASTPP is complete billing solution, along with having PBX functionality, fax over IP services as well. So basically, ASTP, in the ASTP, you can handle prepaid, postpaid calls. It has a support of calling card. You can do effective rate management, deed management. We have a strong comprehensive CDR reports as well. I mean, the reports with the good statistics as well. We have add-on kind of implementation, and we are on a concept of add-on implementation. So if you are just using the billing and now you want PBX functionality, then you just click on an install button, and PBX add-on is going to be installed on top of your billing. So now you can offer the PBX services to your customers as well. And in PBX we have IVR, queue, conference, then time condition. So all the required features, I mean the basic required features in PBX, we have that. Same thing we have for the fax. So you can simply click on install button, and then fax module is going to install. And in that also we have web to fax, fax to email, and then all the fax functionalities are there. Along with that, we also have a different type of add-ons as well. I mean, for the reports as well, we have a number portability support as well. And this add-on concept is that is fully flexible. So any developer can implement their own independent add-on, and they can simply install, and it will be available to the community or whatsoever the customer they are pitching. So that is a fully flexible. So we are trying to build the eco platform where you have a complete VoIP experience with the calls, PBX, faxing, and then for the developers, they can implement any kind of functionality without touching the core part and using the add-on. So yeah, that's the thing.
That's really super interesting. I mean, there's really a lot going on here. I'm looking through, so 450,000 lines of code. There's a lot. 95 countries. Let's look at the countries. Like, which areas of the world are the most users located in?
Actually, I think first of all, European countries, then the US, Canada, and then the African countries.
Oh, Africa. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Africa never really is never really considered too much when we discuss telephony, but I think we should address that. Yeah, I think Africa is a great. So you're seeing Africa as a future market. You think it's somewhere where we want to be more present in general?
Yes, I think Africa is definitely emerging market in terms of telecommunication, because we are, we have community members from Africa as well. We have customers from the Africa as well, and there are a lot happening in terms of telecom over the last 2 or 3 years. So, and in fact, recently we were talking with one of our customer, and he was saying, like, in South Africa particularly, so they were looking for ASTP, and we were in discussion with them. So they were looking for enterprise edition because of the PBX and faxing services. So they were saying, like, we have explored in South Africa only. We have explored a couple of vendors who are offering the billing solution only with this functionality, and everyone was just doing the revamping of ASTPP, and then they are offering their own switch, and they are giving solution to them. So that means each and every one in South Africa, I mean, whatever the vendors or whatever the telecom operators are there, they are majorly thinking about ASTPP. They are, in fact, the government of South Africa, I think, they have also changed the rule as well. And previously they were offering, I mean, they were offering the licenses to the tier 1 and tier 2 only, but I think they have opened the license for a tier 3 and tier 4 as well. So small companies can also become a telecom operator as well. So because of that, the market is very open in South Africa specifically. And another interesting thing is we also have a good customer from Namibia as well. So they are a big telecom company, and we started with them from 2013. And since that, they are using ASTP, and we have deployed big clusters for them, and we have rolled out a couple of clusters for different countries for them. I mean, in different countries, Zambia, then Zimbabwe, then recently we done with South Africa, and we are in discussion with for the Botswana as well. So it's telecommunication in Africa is definitely going well. I mean, it will be much better.
So I need to ask, are you facing any infrastructure problems with deployments and carriers in Africa, or is that a thing a bit of the past? It's better now?
It's better. I mean, we are not facing any problem. Previously, that was happening like when we talk about the servers. I mean, they were insisting like we want everything to be in a house in terms of server. But now the cloud is become very popular, so they understood the thing, and then when we are suggesting them about the cloud servers, they are happy to go ahead with it. So that was a challenge previously, but now we are not facing any challenges for the South African customers. I mean, African customers.
That's very nice. That's super interesting. Okay, so yeah, I think that's been a long discussion with Africa, with the infrastructure, etc. But I've been hearing more and more that it's getting better. So it might be time to get rolling out there. The other problem is deploying in the Arabic Peninsula. That's been a problem for everyone so far. But there's data centers coming up there too. So maybe one day
Exactly.
we'll be able to work there too. It's been quite interesting. So there's one thing I wanted to ask you. I was watching your presentation at TED Summit 2021, and which is a conference I pretty much love, and I need to show up again at some point. But you were going over the challenges faced by ITSPs and voice over IP businesses, and how you can help with ASTPP. What is the most common challenge that people solve with ASTPP?
First is related to the clustering, because I mean, most of the customers, I mean, with any solution they go for it, they start with one server only. And we are getting many customers who are saying like, we started with blah 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 vendor, and then they are just providing for one server or two servers, and they do not have a scalability. Whereas ASTPP is fully flexible and scalable solution which we are offering. I mean, you can split each and every component on a different server. There is no limitation in terms of concurrent calls or CPS, or in terms of record as well. So that is that one solution which we are resolving for the customers. Second is related to the expansion of their business. Ideally, when they start, they just have one admin and then customers. But when you want to scale up, you need resellers. You need either agents who resell your services to in their market, and then you can scale up your business. So that reseller module which we have, I mean, we are offering up to N level of reseller support is there. So that is the problem which we are resolving for the businesses. And third is related to the billing. So prepaid postpaid billing, in terms of most of the customers, what we have seen is they are getting the CDR from their provider, upstream provider. Then they do the manual billing, and then they generate the invoice, and then they pass it to the customers. So with the ASTPP, you can simply process all your calls from the ASTPP, I mean, switch, and then deliver it to your upstream provider. So you are not dependent on one provider or upstream provider CDR, but you can manage everything from the ASTPP itself. And fourth and last, most important, I mean, previously I mentioned, it's not just a billing. I mean, you can definitely start in retail or wholesale, but then when your customers need more functionality, then we just have single button click. I mean, you just install PBX add-on, PBX is available. So you don't need multiple different systems to operate your business. So once you have ASTP, install PBX, you have a PBX available. Fax is available. You want different type of reporting, it is available. So it is all in one solution which we are going ahead, and that is resolving many of the customers' problem.
That's I think that's a very good position to be in. The helping with billing, especially. I think of all things, well, you mentioned clustering. Clustering is probably the major problem. In fact, I think some of SignalWire's users and customers come to us because of scale issues, not really because of platform issues. It's and the same thing could be said for ASTPP. Like sometimes people have a good idea, project is good, it's working well. Then they realize that now they have more than 100 customers, and suddenly it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
Which is
correct.
It shouldn't be underestimated. There's in telephony, there's a long way, in my opinion, between something that works and something that is production ready. I haven't.
100%.
It's that's so that also, well, you mentioned billing. Billing is the number one problem when running any telephony project. And
Yes, that's right.
you're
And actually,
totally-
you mentioned right, like people understand the clustering. I mean, the scalability. When they start, they just think about the simplest thing, and they simply ignore the scalability. But if you are starting now, then think about after what will happen after 1 year or 2 year. Of course, you will require, your business is growing. You need clustering, and that is where the expertise are needed, because otherwise you have 10 servers and then you will not be able to manage them properly. So then you will face more problems.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, when you're doing an early prototype, it's okay to just think about whether it's working or not and not working about scale. But once you start building the product, I think that not thinking about scale right away means you're effectively betting against yourself, because you're saying, "Hey, I don't have success, then there will be no problems. But if we have success, we will have a lot of problems. So maybe don't do that."
That's right.
You're hoping customers don't come, so you don't have problems with scale. It's just not the greatest way to build a business, right? I mean, but someone could do that, but it's not the greatest idea. Well,
True.
then there was a very good chat. We touched on a lot of things, and I'm very happy to see your projects such ASTPP using FreeSwitch be so successful. I see you've done releases. There's a lot going on there. And if you haven't seen it, for the audience, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's a really interesting project. It's got a lot of features, and you can use FreeSwitch, and you can also use SignalWire with it through FreeSwitch. You could use trunks, you could use services. So why not combine the two?
100%. Yeah.
So, well, thank you, Samir, for being with us today. Samir Doshi from iNextrix, maintainer of the ASTPP open source project. And, well, thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you, Luca. Thanks for your time.
And everybody else, see you next week. Thank you.